Do you ever wonder what your fellow creative entrepreneurs are up to? In between the big wins, product launches, and collaborations are the small steps, some forward, some backward, that lead to those turning points. Here's a transparent account of a week in the life of a gal in passionate pursuit of business growth, personal development, and those magical milestones. This is Diary of a Creative Entrepreneur with Michelle Hickey. So this Monday started really strong because over the weekend I put in some hours of work, which I only try to do when I'm actually home doing nothing. If I have plans, I don't sweat it. One of my goals for this year is to really streamline my processes and work ahead. I used to write my blog posts, shoot photos, design things, and write on the same day that my blog post went live. And that just was not working for me anymore because I tend to focus on details. I get really swept up in what I'm doing and sometimes fail to see the bigger picture. So another one of my goals for this year is to start giving myself the margin to be able to look at that big picture, which means that all of those projects with all of those details that normally take my attention need to be taken care of and put aside so that I have the time and space to look at things from above as a business owner. This Monday started by sending out a lot of emails. I got in contact with a list of creative business owners, some that I knew personally, some that I kind of knew, and some that were a little bit of a stretch, to see if they would be interested in sharing their story with my audience on michellehickey.design so that you guys have some inspiring stories to read and new people to look up to. And the lesson I found in sending these emails was the people that I knew already, that I had either had conversations with before or have just known from doing collaborations with or business with, or even some of them I've had lunch with and have met in person, those people responded right away with a big yes. Still awaiting emails from some of those people that I did not know as well. In the middle of the day, I had a really cool opportunity to speak with Tom Ross from Design Cuts. You guys know that Design Cuts is currently the sponsor of this blog and my brand. And in addition to that partnership that we have, Tom and I have formed a nice friendship as well. And like me, he is really into small business, entrepreneurship, and is always so willing to help me out and kind of lends an ear and lends his expertise in helping me grow my business and my brand. And today he took an hour and a half of his time after hours, because they're in the UK, and spoke with me about some ways that I can improve my Elegance and Enchantment site. And it needs a lot of improvement. Aside from some just like site issues as far as like its speed and its SEO, the look of it needs to be updated, but what we really focused on today was getting to the heart of why my conversion rate is so low. I have a very large mailing list, but the mailing list as compared to the amount of people who buy my products, there's like a little bit of a disconnect there. So what we decided on, and what Tom advised me to do, is to send a survey to my readers. Ironically, I had just sent a mini survey to my readers over the weekend, a one question survey, just trying to get them, or trying to figure out who they were. But this survey that he suggested is something that's a little bit more in depth. What we're looking for in this survey is to not only find out who they are, but what their needs are, what their pain points are. We want to see how my current products can relate to their needs and how maybe my products can improve to meet those needs, or maybe that there's even an opportunity to create a new product. After I was done chatting with Tom and grabbing some lunch, I spent most of the afternoon sending out even more emails. And this time I was sending emails to potential influencers for the Enchanting Mondays library. A few weeks back, I set up what I think is a pretty good affiliate program that not only gives anyone who is an affiliate a very generous commission for sales, but also gives them a premium membership to the site. So the list of people that I sent emails to today was compiled by my VA, Mandy, and she, with my direction, found teachers and educators that we thought aligned with our brand's message. And Mandy was awesome enough to create this spreadsheet for me with the names of these bloggers, their email addresses, and then a link to a relevant post that we actually shared on our social media channels, just to let them know that ahead of time that we knew who they were and that it wasn't a completely cold email. And guys, that was the entire day. I still have quite a few items on my to-do list, but most of them are pretty small, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to bang those out tonight. So today started off awesome. Yesterday, after my discussion with Tom about creating a survey for my audience to find out exactly what they want, I decided to download Pat Flynn's book called Will It Fly, which talks about proof of concept and finding out what your audience wants before you go ahead and build something or try to sell them something. Pat talks about something called the airport test, and I integrated that into my goal setting part of my morning. Since last Wednesday, I've been starting my day by writing down some big picture goals, and I do this so that I have something to return to in those moments where I'm asking myself, like, why am I working on this? Why am I doing this? I don't want to be working on this. It really helps to have something to refer to remind me that everything that I'm doing is going towards these big goals. So back to the airport test. And he said, pretend in 5 years from now, you're sitting in an airport waiting for your flight, and you happen to bump into a friend who you haven't seen in a long time. You decide to catch up and have coffee while you're waiting for your flights. I could definitely relate to the situation because I spend a lot of my life sitting in airports waiting for my flights. So while you're talking to your friend, they ask you, what's going on with you? Like, what have you been up to? What are you doing? And in this moment, you should be able to tell them everything that's going on in your life. And the exercise that Pat has you do is to take a piece of paper, split it into 4 quadrants, and write down 4 areas of your life that are most important to you. So the 4 that I chose were family and marriage. I know that's like 2, but I put it into 1. 1 for professional and finances. 1 for health and mental and spiritual. And the last one, travel. I took about 45 minutes this morning to go through and write out bullet points within each of those 4 quadrants. And what made this different than other goal setting exercises that I've done is I wrote them in the form as if I were talking to that friend in the airport. So instead of saying, I will have $1 million in 5 years, I wrote, I have $1 million. I definitely recommend that you try this airport test. And I think the most important thing about it is that you write it down as if you have already accomplished it. After a really strong start to the day, everything was kind of downhill after that. I am filling in for a friend in doing a little bit of freelance work. So the first hour of my day was spent attending to her projects. After that, I had to help out my sister, who normally runs my Etsy shop, but there were a few more advanced design things that she didn't feel comfortable doing that I helped her out with, which means that by lunchtime, I had not yet even started on the items that were written on my to-do list. And that is, it's a problem. I think that when we agree to take on these like little favors and things that you think will only take 5 minutes, they always end up expanding into more time than you think. So I'm trying to be a lot more conscious about what I say yes to. And this morning was a good reminder that I need to be even more conscious of it. So in efforts to try to hustle into the afternoon, I spent my lunch break doing a little bit of work. And I started working on gathering up files from the Enchanting Mondays library into 8 different bundles. And I'm trying this out. I'm going to try to sell some of these bundles of art prints in my Etsy shop. As it is right now, my Etsy shop is extremely passive. I don't really feed a lot of my Elegance and Enchantment audience into the shop. Most of my sales are coming directly from within Etsy, where people are just going to search for whatever it is that they need. So as I guess an alternative to the Enchanting Mondays library, I am going to offer these mini bundles of only 10 prints each, and I am going to present them to my Elegance and Enchantment audience and see what happens. So I started gathering those files together and didn't get super far. I decided to hold off on finishing that until later tonight because it's something that I can do like in front of the TV when I'm hanging out with Mr. MHD. And I shifted my focus toward doing all of my promotions for Design Cuts because a new bundle just came out today, which is awesome if you guys have not yet checked it out yet. Anytime one of their new bundles comes out, which is every 2 weeks, I sit down for a couple hours and write out 3 promotional emails and a series of social posts. And the one thing that I did differently this time around was to try to change my language a little bit for the last email. If you're watching this, it's likely that you've gotten these emails from me before. And because I promote them so often and you're getting these emails so often, I don't want them to become repetitive to you because I feel like that's not bringing you any value. And if you have no intention of purchasing it, then you're getting nothing out of opening these emails. What I tried to do this time around was to share a little bit more of a personal story and then actually included an action step at the bottom of the email. So I'm not just saying buy this, I'm telling you how this product has helped me and try to inspire you to do something with the email at the end of it, whether or not you decide to buy the product or not. And the last thing I did this afternoon was assign 2 tasks to Mandy, my VA, that were on my to-do list yesterday, but I finally just got to it late this afternoon. The first of those was to schedule prompts in my Enchanting Mondays Facebook group, and the second was to schedule social posts promoting potential influencers for the Enchanting Mondays library. We started last month in promoting posts that highlighted educators. This time around, we're going to be highlighting posts from home decorators. So we're going to be kind of working on 2 different campaigns going forward into the fall, but we decided to start with the educational side of it since school starts first, and then we'll be targeting more of like the homemaker and home decorators as we get into September. So as of now, as of like 5:15, that's all I've gotten done today. It feels like I've been working hard all day, but again, I kind of let those tasks that I should not have been doing creep into my morning and put a little bit of a dent in it. But I am going to be working this evening, and I have more items on my to-do list. And I guess I can share those with you guys. I am working on a vintage font roundup that's going to go on MichelleHickey.design, so you can look for that. And I still have to schedule and post Instagram for both my brands. And hopefully I'm going to get dinner and a walk-in after that at some point. So that is it for Tuesday. Catch you tomorrow. Okay guys, we are trying something new today. I watched a lot of YouTube vloggers and did a little bit of studying, and I feel like that formal setup that I have going on in my office is not really conducive to what I'm trying to do here, which is to give you like a really real look at what I do all day. And today I happen to be working in the downstairs part of my house instead of my office. A lot of times Mr. MHD comes home for lunch and I bring my computer down to hang out with him and then never make it back upstairs. And today was one of those days. So I also thought this would be a good opportunity to show you how I had been recording for the last 2 days using this little guy. It's a really cheapo iPhone tripod. And I had like literally been sticking my iPhone into this thing and then attaching it to the front of my laptop and recording myself that way. Very ghetto, but hopefully it got the job done. Today I'm attempting to just use my arm sitting at my dining room table And as you notice, I have headphones on because I just want to kind of experiment a little bit with the audio quality. I know my office is extremely echoey, and I'm sure it's not the best audio experience for you. So hopefully this will sound better. So today, as I look down here at my notes, last night I worked on file prepping those art printable bundles that I mentioned yesterday. And I had lofty goals of getting a lot of other things on my to-do list done last night, but it just didn't happen. Sometimes we think things are only going to take us a certain amount of time, and they end up taking us a lot longer. And this was the case with getting those files ready with those bundles. I thought since I had most of the work done, that the artwork existed and everything, that it would just be like a piece of cake to drag a couple folders over, but it ended up being a much more time-intensive process and probably something that I should have outsourced had I planned ahead. So this morning, after I did my goal setting, I hopped right back into it. I had finished most of the file prep last night, so this morning I shifted my attention to creating a printing guide for my customers. When they go to download their art printable files, they will have the opportunity to access this printing guide that should hopefully help them decide which file type is best for them to print and answer some of those like printing issues that we all tend to run into. I used an existing printing guide that I had created for the Enchanting Mondays library, so just making some minor modifications to that. Then I hit a little bit of a brick wall. I started to zip my files up because I knew that they were really large. A lot of these files have like a lot of artwork and fonts embedded in them, and came to realize that Etsy does not support files over 20 megabytes, and mine were well beyond that. So I started by experimenting, breaking them down into sections. I thought like maybe I could upload maybe like 4 or 5 of them, but I was still exceeding the limit, so I needed to come up with an alternate solution. And this was to create just a single zip file for each of the 9 bundles and host those on my personal Dropbox account. And in doing that, I realized that I needed to create another PDF to explain to customers, first of all, why when it says instant download that they don't get these files immediately, and then providing them with instructions on how to access them as soon as possible. So once again, another detour in a plan that I thought was going to be something quick and easy and ended up being much bigger than I had anticipated. Once I got that all straightened out, I returned to creating the actual artwork for Etsy, which are just the little preview images and thumbnails. And I thought this was going to be the fun part, but the OCD came out in me, and I realized after, a half hour of trying to create some kind of template that could showcase all 10 printables that were included in each bundle, that I had already spent way more time on it than was necessary. So I regrouped, I got my act together, and I just came up with something simple that could be duplicated for all 9 of the bundles. I have to admit, after lunchtime, I was feeling pretty discouraged, low energy, and I'm trying to get into this mode of being big picture and doing big things, and it sometimes is just really tough to get past those feelings when you experience what I experienced in the last 24 hours, which is spending time zipping files and creating artwork. I mean, that kind of work it feels so small. It doesn't feel like I'm doing anything big. It doesn't feel like I'm this big time successful entrepreneur. I mean, I honestly feel like I'm an assistant. But I think that I needed to realize that's part of being an entrepreneur. You have to be able to flip back and forth between those two modes. And not to say that I should not have outsourced some of that work. I definitely should have, but I think I was too far in it at that point, and I just really needed to get this stuff out there, get these published. So had a little pep talk with myself, returned to my why, looked at my goals briefly, and then got back on track. So I had to take a little bit of a break from that project and attend to some freelance work. And I tried to make the best use of my time when I was doing that mindless work. I did some studying and watched a bunch of YouTube videos to get some inspiration on how to be a better vlogger, since I'm obviously very new at this. I don't really know what direction this is going to go in, if this is going to fizzle out, or it might just be like a 1 week or a couple week experiment. Well, time will tell. But I think it's really important, no matter what you're going into, to look to the people who have already proven that they're a success and see what they're doing and just try and replicate it the best that you can, of course, with your own spin on it. So I watch videos from Sunny Lenarduzzi and also, of course, the great Marie Forleo. And actually, with Marie's videos, the thing that helped me most was to go back in her archives and view some of her oldest videos. This may sound weird, but if you have watched her show before or have seen any of her content, it is completely polished. And of course, how I envision my YouTube shows looking, but that's not realistic. I mean, look at me. I've got my iPhone headphones and my shaky arm. Sitting in my dining room. I don't have a fancy studio or proper lighting or a proper mic. But when I went back and looked at her old stuff, I saw that, that production value was not there right out of the gate. And I have a feeling that she probably had recorded videos that are not even on her YouTube channel, because even the old ones are pretty good quality. But anyway, I think that that's a good practice for all of us when we're feeling discouraged and we need some inspiration, to look to those people that we admire, but realize that they didn't get to where they are overnight, that there's always a process involved. And we have to be patient and know that we will learn and we will get better. And it's okay to have a starting point where, you look super amateurish. After I finished up with my freelance work, my big win at the end of the day, or the end of the work day, was to get one of those 9 Etsy listings published. And I'm happy to say that it's up there, and I know that the hard work is done. Now it's just a matter of getting the other 9 up, which should not take long. Hopefully I'll be getting those up this evening. But for now, I am headed to the gym, and we'll check in with you guys tomorrow. Good morning, guys. I am trying something new yet again on this Thursday morning. Right now, I am headed off to my favorite coffee shop to meet with my friend Muriel, who is a wonderful and fabulous photographer and fellow creative entrepreneur. And we're just gonna go catch up. So I'm having one of those moments where I'm weighing what's most important, to either stick to my original plan for this afternoon, which was to take photographs for an upcoming sponsored email sequence, or to shift gears and work on developing questions for a survey for my Elegance and Enchantment audience. And as much as I hate skewing from the path and plan that I laid out for myself, in this moment, I'm feeling that doing that survey is where it's going to make more of a difference. Not only is it important in defining my audience and just my overall plan, or overall, I don't know what, overall something, but it's also something that is holding up a lot of other things that I need to get done, like working on my Facebook ad copy and working on my site redesign. Before I know exactly who I'm talking to and what my audience wants, I don't even know what to say to them. So in efforts to not stress out about the fact that I am not getting those photographs done today, I'm going to shoot an email to the sponsor for those emails and let them know that I'm going to be shooting the photos tomorrow, just to give them a little bit of an update and just to check in to let them know that we're still on track for getting those out in August. They were not expecting anything from me this week, but I don't know, there's just something about knowing that in my mind that I committed to doing it today that I feel like I need to explain myself to them. So I am going to get started on those survey questions, and we'll definitely be sharing the results with you. So I just finished up writing my surveys for my Elegance and Enchantment audience. So the first one is a general survey for my entire audience. One is for people who have already purchased one of my products. And the last one is for the group of people who already filled out the mini survey that I sent out last weekend that has questions that are a little bit more specific to their needs, since I was already able to identify who they were and how they used my products. And as per usual, before I jumped into actually writing my survey questions, I did a ton of research. Not research about my audience, but research on how to share effective surveys. So the first place I went was into my email inbox, since Tom from Design Cuts was the one who first suggested that I should run a survey. I went and found a survey that Design Cuts had sent to me, and I went ahead and filled it out so I could see the types of questions that they were asking. Next, I went to download the Ask Formula PDF from Ryan Levesque, who is an author who actually wrote an ebook that I read called Ask, and I knew that he had this resource that came with it. I didn't find a ton of information in there that I could use, if I'm being completely honest. I found it to be just a little bit confusing, and I know that his stuff is like really effective, and lots of people have used it to create surveys, but I think he just wasn't speaking my language. So the last place I went was to someone that I know, like, and trust the most, and that is Amy Porterfield. I found an old podcast episode that she had about a survey that she ran to her audience, and I found that really helpful to listen to as I was starting to formulate my own questions. So once again, anytime you're finding yourself in a position where you're in uncharted territories and you don't know exactly what you're doing, go to those experts who do know what they're doing and have proven themselves, and I think that that's always where you're going to find your answers. All right, guys, so this morning I worked on designing my reader survey. I got all the content done yesterday, all the writing, and today just focused on actually getting it into Typeform, which is the platform I use to send the survey out. A lot of you may be familiar with SurveyMonkey? No, SurveyMonkey. I'm combining MailChimp, whatever. A lot of you may be familiar with SurveyMonkey, but I really like Typeform because it has that, that human element where they kind of just speak like regular language. They're not fancy, but they have some fancy features. Either way, go check it out. I've used them before and loved using them again. And as per usual, I spent way too much time on the details of this survey instead of just focusing on the content. And I decided to include animated GIFs or GIFs, however you say it, of my favorite movies and TV shows into the survey, one for each question, to kind of keep the audience engaged. And hopefully that paid off somewhat because I spent like an hour working on it. I sent the survey out around noon, and within the first hour received over 300 responses, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. I was very nervous because it's a Friday. I know it's the summer. A lot of people are on vacation, not checking their email at all. But I think it was one of those lessons in, we really stress out about when exactly we're going to send something, when, especially with all these like social media algorithms, it's not worth stressing about. It's not worth spending hours trying to figure out that like exact right moment. Just send your stuff out when it's ready to be sent out, when you feel like it's fleshed out and ready for the world to see. So, initial reactions from these results. I have not been speaking to the right people. I think that what happened was a lot of my audience started to come in a couple years ago when I was blogging about DIY stuff. And I came to realize in that time period that I am not a DIYer at all. I don't like getting my hands dirty. I don't really like doing anything that's away from my computer. So I tried to kind of shift my focus to say, okay, I'm this designer. I am really into motivating people and inspiring people. So I'm just going to focus on creating motivating and inspiring designs, and you guys figure out the rest. Now my mind is kind of in a million places. I'm not sure what my next move should be, because today I'm supposed to be working on creating ad copy and images for Facebook ads, and I am working with a professional on this, but I'm still coming up with my own creative for it. And now I feel like I'm targeting the wrong people. Are my products even right? My mind is like, should I start from scratch? I already know that I have to redo my website, so at least I didn't do that yet. But I'm having a really hard time trying to figure out like what my next move is. Not big picture, but like literally like this afternoon, where I should be focusing my energy, or if I should wait for more results to come in before I like jump into some kind of like big decision. So that's where I'm at right now. Well, it's exactly 5 o'clock, and I decided to call it quits for this Friday at least. This afternoon, I was like really in the zone, and I love when that happens. I worked on just various little things that were on my to-do list that I didn't get to throughout the course of the week. And this weekend, I am going to be putting in a few hours of work. I still need to take those photos that I was supposed to take yesterday. And I still need to send the survey out to my current Enchanting Mondays customers. And I still need to write the copy for my Facebook ads. And of course, I need to work on the blog posts that this video is going to be featured on. So that is it for this week, and I hope that you enjoyed the journey of traveling through the week with me, and hope that it provided some insights for you.